Thank you for coming. I thought it's proper to say a few words about Yakir and about how he evolved to do what he did, and a little bit about the scientific history, maybe a little bit about the personal history. So Yakir was born in August of 1932, which means he's a little bit over 90 right now. He did his bachelor degree at the Technion, graduated at the age of 24, 1956, I believe. And then he wanted to do some interesting research. So he knew quantum at that time. At the Technion, we had the former postdoc of Einstein at this time, and his name was Nathan Rosen. So Yakir wanted to do something that has to do at the forefront of quantum research at that time, on the foundation. So he went to Nathan Rosen and told him that he wants to work on something that has to do with measurement. Now, measurement theory is one of the most controversial issues in quantum mechanics and the foundations to this day. There are many, many things that are not resolved. At least we don't have any intuition about this. We can compute, and that's about it. And to get some understanding or intuition is another story. We can compute, and experiments show us that what we compute is generally okay. By the way, there was a Nobel Prize in Physics this year, something related. So he went to Nathan Rosen, and Nathan Rosen told him, young man, stay away from this. This is too controversial. Go do something that is not controversial. But luckily enough, on that year, David Bohm arrived to the Technion. Now, who is David Bohm? David Bohm was following this logic of Einstein, of God does not play with dice, and he was trying to find an alternative theory. He was already a famous professor at Princeton at that time, but in the early 50s, in the US was the McCarthy Committee. McCarthy Committee looked for communists in the academia, in the American academia. And there were apparently quite a few, and many of them were Jewish, and they had this all kind of ideology of trying to give a nuclear bomb also to Russia, to the Soviet Union, so maybe there is a balance and nobody will use it anymore. So they asked him to come and interview, and he refused. So Princeton detenured him, kicked him out, and he had to leave. So he left the US, because otherwise he was being an American citizen, they could summon him to the McCarthy Committee or put him to jail. And he went to Brazil, not to Israel yet. And in Brazil, after a couple of years, he figured that there's no science in Brazil at that time. So he came to Israel. His wife was apparently spent some time in Israel, and Yakir told me today that apparently she was in the Haganah or Palmach, so she was here for quite some time. So he was motivated and came to the Technion. And Yakir met him exactly right then, and they started to bounce all kinds of ideas. But David Bohm had some problems with his skin. He was exposed to the sun, and apparently Yakir told me that he had all kinds of some scars and all kinds of problems with this, so he wanted to move to a country where there is less sun. So they moved to the UK, and they moved to Bristol, and he took Yakir with him. So I would have liked to tell you that the Aharonov bomb effect was actually incepted, or people thought about the suggested first at Technion, and maybe I should leave it at that, but it is untrue. They thought about it, unfortunately, at Bristol. So the paper came out from Bristol, and the idea came out in Bristol, unfortunately. And the idea actually was considered controversial. Now, if you ask a physicist, what is important in the Aharonov bomb effect, I can summarize it in one sentence. Measuring something where it is zero. Okay? Measuring the magnetic field in a region which is not very, very, very small, but actually identically zero, and they still can measure it. So they proposed, why is this? And it was, of course, controversial, and of course, probably nobody believed at the beginning, but it's hard to argue with the theory. So either the theory is wrong, or something there must be wrong. Since then, it was proved in many, many things. It gave rise to a whole career, all kinds of ideas that have to do with geometrical phases. And the one that found the relation and actually expanded, brought it up, and made it actually more universal is Sir Michael, my good friend. And Michael understood that actually the concept is not only restricted to magnetic field, but to something bigger than that. And he invented something that is called Berry phase. The only person that doesn't call it Berry phase is Michael himself. He calls it geometrical phase. And the effect is really about geometry of space. So since then, after this discovery, now that people understand it pretty well, they are contenders for the Nobel Prize, and they won together the Wolf Prize. But if I go back to Yakir's career. So after the PhD, he graduated to PhD in 1960, and then he was an research assistant in Brandeis University, and then he became an assistant professor at Yeshiva University, where he was there for 6 years, got tenure and became associate professor, and then hired by Tel Aviv. There was an overlap of about a year or so. Now, since 1984, he is winning every possible award. In 1984, he won the Weizmann Prize, and the same year, Rothschild Prize, Israel Prize in 1989, became member of our academy, Israel Academy of Sciences and Humanities in 1990, member of the National Academy of Science of the United States in 1993, and the Hewlett-Packard Physics Prize in 1995, Wolf Prize, which is like a predictor for Nobel Prize. I think about a third, more than a third of those that won the Wolf Prize in fields where they are given also the Nobel, went along and won the Nobel Prize. Best example is Nobel Prize in Physics this year. That was won the Wolf Prize, I think, around 2010, give or take. Anyway, and after that, the Met Prize in 2006, and in 2010, Yakir won the American National Academy of Science from President of the United States, Barack Obama, together with another Israeli that won the National Medal of Technology, Amnon Yariv. They won it together from Obama that year, which is interesting because I think you were the only two scientists at the time. The others were all kinds of things in humanities and social sciences, and both of them Israelis. So since then, so I'm telling you all of that such that you know that we don't honor just Yakir for coming of age of 90, but actually for things that he did over the years and for a generation of students, and many of them are here, and there are many more, because many people that were in his vicinity that were not directly students were inspired by him and worked with him in all kinds of ways. So we'll celebrate this date with you, but actually what we do, we wish you many more years of good health and continue to work, continue to publish good papers with young people and inspire us all. Thank you. Thank you.